Welcome to another edition of Blighty Talks Bricks. My guest today is someone I've known for a little while. My description of him would be he's a really interesting guy. He's great company. He's a top fella. I get picked on for using the word lovely a lot, but he is lovely. And I'm going to keep saying that, as I've said in previous podcasts. He is a lovely bloke, and if he wasn't, I'd say so. He played rugby for Saracens. I found out the other day that he was also a ski instructor, or is a ski instructor. His career is a senior business transformation leader with over 20 years of global experience. I'm really excited. I'm really thankful that he took time out of his busy diary to come and sit and have a chat. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce my guest today, Muna Ebongalame. How are you?
Thank you.
Did I do well with that pronunciation?
That was perfect.
Was
Absolutely
it?
Perfect.
I have been practicing so hard on that, and I'm glad I pulled it off.
Yeah.
But Muna, how are you, fella? I'm really pleased you're here.
Yeah, thank you, Blighty, and just a little bit humbled. I've never had that sort of introduction, so just kind of reflecting on that, for me, it's an honour, a pleasure, and for myself, it's just incredibly humbling to be able to do this with you. So,
well, mate, and I appreciate it, and everything I said, I said this just before we started recording. I've been in your company a few times, in a number of environments, amazing places, yes, but a number of environments. You always leave me, and there's very, very few people that leave me always feeling better, and you do, mate.
Thank you.
You always seem to be smiling. You always seem to be happy. I know from your rugby days you was happy because you were so bloody quick, nobody could catch you to make you not happy. But is that, I say the word facade, is that just the way you are? Or do you have your days where you think life's a bit crap?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a lot of this. Just you have to think about where someone's come from, the origins. I mean, you probably don't know, but I was born in Cameroon, West Africa. I was very, very fortunate and privileged in terms of I had both parents, and my family was fairly okay. Cameroon's probably more notorious for Roger Miller, the footballer.
Yes, when I used to, in the green shirt, and did you had a little shuffle in the corner?
Yeah, a little shuffle in the corner. That was Roger. But aside from that, there's a lot of struggles in these countries, and you got that crazy disparity of rich and poor. But at the same time, I was fortunate. I came to UK because I was 8 years old at the time. I had asthma and struggled a lot with just my breathing in general. And for whatever reason, the climate here in the UK was fairly mild. So it actually...
You're the only person I've met in my entire life that said the climate in Great Britain's perfect.
Which yeah, it's as crazy as it sounds. That was one of the primary reasons. But with that, I grew up in the north of England, so I had most of my schooling up in Carlisle. So, probably don't sound like it right now, but that was.
Would this been a boarding school?
It was boarding school. Yeah,
that's why it doesn't sound like
absolutely.
it. By the way,
yeah. And with that, I made a lot of good friends at school. There was a lot of hostility outside of school, being person of a different skin color. But I had this weird kind of life where certainly for probably the first sort of 7 between 7 and 10 years, where I'd live in school and then come back to London with my parents, and then at about age 15 my father passed away. Our lives changed a little bit.
That's a young age to lose your father.
Yeah. So literally the week before my GCSEs. And I kind of smile at it because there were significant changes in my life. So, mum struggled. So I was living with my mum at the time.
Brothers and sisters?
Brothers and sisters, yeah. But they were back in Cameroon. So commuting and travelling over during my holidays to spend time with me. But ended up in this weird place where we she found a place in in Broadwater Farm. So
really
in North London. So I would spend my holidays in North London, and then
at Broadwater Farm.
At Broadwater Farm.
So you're coming from a boarding school in Carlisle.
Yeah, boarding.
And you're go.
Yeah.
I mean, we are talking sublime and ridiculous here.
It's very different, and from that you kind of have this weird. I could see one part of life which was, you know, a bit of a struggle. And literally, I still remember the phone call from my mum when it was PC Blakelock.
The riots.
The riots kicked off, and that was happening. And I was at school at the time, and I was like, people probably wouldn't believe me. And then being at school in this very privileged environment, and then, you know, I think having just that view of the world.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you get? So you obviously enjoyed your school experience.
Yeah.
But what was it like when you got back to the residents of Broadwater Farm? Did they know you? Would they have looked to you as this little rich boy?
Yeah, there was a lot of that, and that was the other thing about, you know, probably why my disposition, as you say, is kind of smart. So I lived in this very quasi world where I would go up north and not sound like a northerner and get picked on. Also, I didn't look like everyone else, so I was getting picked on. I would then come back down south where people who looked like me thought I was very different because I went to school. So I was
did you tell them you went to a board? Did they think you went to Borstal? Maybe they thought, he is like the top man because he keeps going to little prison centres. It's just crazy world.
It's just such there's so much ambiguity in it. But ultimately for me it was, I just the friends, some of my friends I still connect and we still speak from Broadwater Farm. I still have my friends from school, from Carlisle, and so for me really the side of me and how I think about life is I'm very fortunate and very privileged to be able to do what I do, how I do it, when I do it. I've got my family, and you know, when I meet people like you, we've known each other for a short amount of time, but we've known about each other for a long period of time through mutual friends, and you know, meeting people like you and just having what I call my own close network. I feel like I'm incredibly privileged because there are so many others who haven't had the good luck, haven't had the good fortune, haven't necessarily had the strength of character that I've had to enable me to flourish, and more importantly, just to challenge status quo in terms of, you know, my world, and that's probably why I smile, because I just think I'm incredibly lucky. I think that's kind of the way I think about it.
Well, whatever it is, I wish we could put it into a little bottle. We could sell it in Boots and make a fortune. Yeah. I was talking to Emma the other day. I always feel you sprinkle a little bit of stardust. You know, I just think that you leave everyone. And I'm not saying this for no other reason than it's true. And I know the people that know you, and we've got some, as you've mentioned, some friends that know each other. It's all the same. Mum's still alive?
Yeah, Mum's still alive. Yeah, she's back in Cameroon. She's doing well, and giving us a hard time, which is right.
Which is what she should do.
Yeah. But doing well, and I think again, just back to all of those things. It's your life your life journey does a number of things. You can either be sort of receptive and accept what you've been given, but then look at what are the opportunities and the elements of that you can change, what's in your control and what isn't. Or you can just capitulate and let it, you know, run over you, which I'm not the sort of character where I'll let that happen. I'm interested in growing and learning. And it's an interesting thing, actually, you probably don't realise, but I left school and went and studied construction management and civil engineering.
Oh, I didn't know that, no.
Yeah, so I was, you know, back then it was the thought of becoming a quantity surveyor. 4 or 5 years at uni, and with a year out, a gap year, working for Cheshire County Council. Okay. In their direct labour organisation. So I was a site engineer and seeing all sorts of just crazy things that were happening on the roads in Cheshire, Nantwich and Cheshire actually specifically. And so the world of being on a construction site and then the world of playing professional rugby was so different. So, there were those moments on the construction side, and a lot of the things I was looking at back then was not only looking at bills of quantities and doing all of the sort of the admin side of the fence, it was also health and safety on the sites. And just some incredible things where there would be accidents and you're thinking these are life-threatening accidents, and some horrible things are happening on our roads. And then I'd go and start playing rugby and people are like, oh, isn't that tough? And I'm like, it is, but actually, you know what, people die.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely
tough. But what I'm doing is actually a little bit of fun. So I spent a lot of my life just in that kind of world of construction and learning all about it. Did a whole load of work with not only the local authorities, but there's a building firm actually in London where they allowed me to have a day a week whilst I was playing at Saracens. Yeah.
Was Saracens fully rugby? I mean,
yeah.
Professional then,
yeah.
fully professional.
So it wasn't when I first joined. I actually, I mean, it's interesting actually. I turned up at Saracens, and this is life kind of throws certain things at you. I was in Chester for a year, and I remember just going and playing at the local rugby club, and for me, I'd always just played rugby at school, played county, north of England, England camps, all that sort of stuff. So I didn't realise just at the level I was playing in. To put it into context, about 6 of the players that were in that England under 16s and under 18s camp were part of the 2003 World Cup winning side.
Were they really?
Yeah. So that for me is always, and again, it's just the privilege and good fortune of just maybe it's being in the right place at the right time or just looking at life differently. But yeah,
I would call it ability, man.
There is, yeah. There is a certain amount of ability, right? But there's also, it's hard work. So what you never see, and I talk about this, my kids and my son especially, and my daughter, in terms of, you put in what you get out, but actually the more you put in, the more you will get. And what I mean by that is that for a game of rugby, the 80 minutes that's spent on the pitch, you're probably only running around for about 20, 30 of those minutes.
Yep.
But those 20 or 30 minutes, multiply it by at least 100, because that's the amount of training and effort you need to put in
to get on that pitch in the first place.
Exactly. And it's like that for every...
It's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. So you kind of have to put it in. So you put, I hated the training because everyone was bigger than me. So I had to work on my strengths, but more importantly, learn what their weaknesses were.
So you were different in Iron Rugby because you were quick and could get away from them. They'd catch me and they'd pummel me. So but rugby taught me a lot, and not just about myself, but about friendships, camaraderie. I've got. It's a great game for that, isn't it? Sport's great for that, isn't it? Generally.
Yeah.
So the rugby career for you, on reflection now, panned out the way you wanted?
Yeah.
Any regrets in that field?
Wow, any regrets? Absolutely not. I mean, this again is, you talk about the smiling disposition, but I think I always feel like I am the luckiest human being ever. Being of African descent, parents who are very much, the African way is you're either a doctor, a lawyer, something in that sort of, or engineer, or something in that sort of academic field. And when I told my mum, literally after finishing my my degree, saying I've been given a rugby contract and I'm going to become a rugby player,
she wanted to kick you out.
It's just the disappointment was palpable.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah, and it's cultural, isn't it, as well? So the way to get out of a situation is to education, which is super important.
Absolutely.
And I was fortunate that I was adept enough to be able to learn things quickly, be curious enough to explore. And at age 10, I remember locking myself in my room, and just because I was getting bullied and all sorts of stuff, and I wasn't the biggest, I was like, right, I've got to figure out a way of.
Did you look at it that way?
Yeah, I
because that's an advanced thing to be able to do.
You don't. Maybe it's just the way my mind works, because I think, and again, racism happens in lots of different ways. You'll get, at a certain age, it's very much it's words. And then at a certain age, it's physical, and then another part it becomes psychological.
Yeah.
And then certainly in the world of business, I get it still. It's subtle.
You still get it today, do you?
Yeah. I still get it today. It's subtle, but ultimately the one thing I always go back to is it's a lot of it is just down to maybe slight lack of education or ignorance, because people don't know you. So there's all of these constructs which are kind of wrap around the whole thing. Now, from my perspective, I still remember at that age, I was like, well, the only way I can not beat it, it's just face it on, is physically I wasn't big enough. So I was like, right, I'll educate myself. So I remember reading dictionary back to front, front to back. Yeah, because I just thought...
I do that with the Sun newspaper, by the way.
Exactly, yeah. It's probably more better words. No, but yeah, so I did that at age 10. And again, you reflect on all... And a lot of the things I was doing was about protecting myself from the environment.
Absolutely.
And the byproduct of trying to protect myself. So I knew I wasn't the biggest. So as I became a teenager, I studied, I learned, and spent a lot of time in the gym. I read a lot of stuff around Arnold Schwarzenegger's training patterns. So I was like, right, I've got to get myself stronger.
Did you have any sort of close buddies at school that had the similar challenges, or not? Because
not really. I had, well, what it was at school, there were the cool kids, and there were the kids who were like myself, slightly different. But ultimately, my difference and my what I would call my actions to try and make myself more safe led to a mental change in my ability, a physical change in my body, which ultimately meant from an output of just going to the gym every night, or early in the morning, just to get myself stronger. All that led to was, on the rugby pitch, everything became easier.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, time slowed down for me. But the byproduct was all of those hours in the gym, just doing that work, actually nothing to do with the rugby. It was just all about, right, if I ever get into a situation where somebody confronts me or tries to and the story is actually, I was in Liverpool and got kicked out of the train because I, A, looked different, and B, I wasn't a Liverpool supporter. And this was in Southport. And I remember getting kicked out of the train. I was about 11 years old. And I was just like, this is just unbelievable. And physically, I couldn't do anything about it. So that was sort of one of the triggers, which was, right, I need to work on this. And that became the target, which... the byproduct was, it allowed me to develop physically. I read, I was not just dictionaries. I remember reading all of the Lord of the Rings books, and I was probably about 10 and a half, 11 years old. Locked myself in my room for like 2.5, 3 weeks, where my mum was going crazy, because it's like, why aren't you outside playing with John and Billy or whatever? And I'm just like, oh no, I've got to read this because it's something I'm interested in. So I was just so focused on starting and finishing something that I literally and it was one of those where she would literally put the tray under the door. Yeah, right.
Well, you see, I think again, I don't know how we're blessed, whether it's upbringing or whatever, but there would have been lots of kids that did lock themselves away, but didn't have that resolve to go and actually educate themselves, to actually say that I'm going to physically get myself stronger, where it just got so much that they actually effectively, I'm not saying cry permanently in a corner, but curling a ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, is it resilience? I don't really know what the thing is, but that was how I saw the world. And my way of dealing with the world was to improve myself.
Yeah.
And again, the byproducts of that meant I was basically given the good fortune to then try lots of different things. So kind of sport became quite natural, and I could, probably the best way to describe it is in the same way that someone can read music and, play music, I could watch and I could look at someone's physical form, look at their actions and replicate. And that for me just
so you
felt
could
like
look
a
at somebody
natural-
to get yourself fitter.
Yeah.
You could see that. It was like 3D for you.
Exactly.
You could then take that onto the field.
Yeah.
And you could actually probably see your intelligence level, if that's the right word, saw that you could see plays unfolding in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. And that also helped because of that speed. And you talk about what rugby gave me. For me, it was just an utter privilege getting the Saracens contract. Then overnight, it was just these superstars appeared. And the funny thing about all of that was I actually didn't think I was part of that team because, I mean, growing up...
Why?
Well, growing up, it wasn't the Six Nations, it was the Five Nations.
Yep.
So we had like all of these, and I would watch France, and they just looked like this incredible team who just, and it wasn't even just the rugby, the football as well. And I lived opposite the road from Dennis Bergkamp, and I used to train at Haringey Athletics Ground.
Yeah.
Just because
I know
of the
exactly
running.
where it is.
Yeah, so I trained there, and I'd watch the Arsenal players, and like there was Bergkamp there was Adams, there was Keown, they're all just going through their pre-season stuff as I was doing mine, and they would always be looking over like, the rugby guy, what are you doing? And I'd be like, you footballers are just on a different level. So it was a privilege to be in that environment. And then in the rugby world, for me, I had Philippe Seller, the most capped international at that point, Michael Liner, who was the highest point scorer. Francois Pienaar had just picked up a World Cup for South Africa, and basically that whole story galvanizing an entire nation. And for me, these individuals, you had the big names, but then you had the people who nobody really knew. One of my best friends, Steve Ravenscroft today, Andy Lee, Greg Bottom, and all these individuals who I'd known as a teenager, and they became more like brothers to me, who look after me.
I know Andy considers you like that.
So for me, it's that became almost the family that was protecting me from this crazy. I think part of it is also that I'm also an introvert. So it actually my predisposition is actually
you don't come across as an introvert. You don't come across as an ex. You just come across as, I could use that word again, a lovely guy.
Yeah. No, my description of being an introvert is like there's a kind of the concept of, I'll go into a room, my energy level is, let's just say 10. And as I engage with more people, my battery starts to drain.
Does it really?
Yeah, whereas I don't necessarily go into a room, and because everyone's energy is high, mine goes up. It stays.
I'm the opposite. I go in, my energy is 1.
Yeah.
And then if I'm talking to lovely people, I'm like, I'm like a bouncing ball then, aren't I?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I just love good company.
Yeah.
I love that environment, but I go into that room as an introvert.
Yes.
But then my energy charges.
Yeah.
The opposite to you.
Yeah, and I think also I'm quite level. So, and a lot of that again is just
you've trained yourself.
I've trained myself, but I'm also very cautious. When we talk about the kind of the work environment and the experiences there,
let's move on to that, because you said some things that I wouldn't say they've surprised me. I mean, I started this journey, the podcast journey, with a very good friend of ours, Spoonie.
Yeah.
And Spoonie and I grew up on the same council estate.
Yeah.
different era. He's 50 years older than me. But the one thing I picked up from him, and you might know what it's like from your Broadwater days. You know, we're in Shoreditch. This is my manor, as I call it. Yep. I didn't see people's skin colour. No. I didn't see culture. No. I saw them, and I still see it today, as they're either wrong uns, or they're all right. Yeah, there isn't any difference. Yeah, and wrong uns come in all shapes and sizes, as do good uns. Yeah, but so I suppose really there's an element. I won't call it ignorance from me. And Spoonie brought up a good point about people say things because of a lack of education. Yeah. And that's not about going to school. That's not about going to read a book. That's about you saying something to some. And we're in I'm not woke. We're in a very woke world. I am certainly not woke. But we're in a world now that in the past, people said things, and if it got a laugh, people would continue with that. Yeah. What we needed to do, and what we should be doing, I'm not sure if we are, and you've brought something up surprises me slightly, is I think we're all more aware today. Certainly the older generation. Yeah. You know, I'm in that older generation group. It would mortify me with the lovely people, the numpties out there. Do you know what? If I upset you, tough titties, because you are not on my side of the camp. Yep. But the lovely people, if I upset someone, that hurts me. If I've said something that flippantly, I would like that person at the right time to pull me aside and say, Blighty, you know, you crossed a line here. And you would see the remorse on my face because I didn't. I can row with the best of them. I'm a scrapper. But, you know, but it is an educational thing. But for you to say that do you still feel it today sometimes that you know, a skin situation causes an issue?
100%. I mean, it's like I said, it changes as you get older. And you know, certainly for me, even I mean, it's really interesting. There's two stories, and I've got one is business and one is just family. And business, you know, I was working for a company, Salesforce.com, a number of years ago, and I was in a meeting in San Diego, so we had all of the leaders from my division in San Diego, and you know we have a dinner after our session in the daytime, and we're walking. The bus takes us to the restaurant. We come out of the bus. We're now walking into this restaurant, and there's 8 of the leaders. And it was one of those moments where, as it happened, I knew exactly what was coming. However, the rest of the team, all of the leaders in the business, had never expected anything like that to happen. So as we're walking in, still remember the manager of the establishment stepping right in my path, pulling me to one side, and then asking me, "Are you with this group?" That was the first thing. Really? So I then had to kind of diffuse the situation a little bit, and then my leader basically stepped in and, you know, of course he's with us, and you know, why would you even do? And then the guy realized his mistakes, so we then walk in, and I think there was a realization then by everyone in the team that, you know, this happens. It still happens, So anyway, we then tried and this is the other part of it, which was really interesting. So because that was the first time for them, there was an immediate reaction of, we'll never use this place again, and you know, we'll do. And it's all of those things. Oh, actually, no, that doesn't fix it.
That doesn't fix it, because the next person that comes has the same challenge.
Exactly. So it's an education thing. So that was just one example, and then the family one. I mean, I've got you know, my wife's from Northern Ireland, and you know, we've got mixed race kids who my family is the thing that keeps you going, keeps you grounded, keeps you everywhere. And you know, very fortunate.
And I've met your wife briefly, and she's lovely.
Yes, she is. You know, we went skiing in France. Again, very very fortunate to be able to do that. I love being in the mountains, and it comes from being, growing up in the Lake District pretty much. So I just want space.
Yeah, get that.
So in the mountains, we go into a restaurant, the family, and it just takes forever for us to get served, like almost 45 minutes. And everyone else in the restaurant, we can see, they'll come in, they'll be well received, they'll be sat, they'll get their food before us. So this was all happening, and I was like, my wife is now going absolutely ballistic. But all the whilst, what the restaurateurs didn't realise, so I speak French, being from Cameroon, so I can hear them.
Do you know, I'd love to have that power.
Right,
Amazing.
So I'm understanding what's being said, and I'm just having to sort of just be very patient, because that's what you do. Because if you kick up a fuss, it can go lots of different ways, and you just don't want that. But in the end, we got our food. All of that happened, and then we get home, and of course, my cat's fuming, absolutely going crazy. So I was just like, just you've got to. This is one of those learning moments. It's learning for you, but it's about, the more we do it, the more we go to those places, the more they then kind of realize actually we're no different to anyone else. But yeah, it happens. It happens all the time. But my biggest fear of all of it is that's the stuff I can't protect my kids from. I will never be able to, if I'm not there, I will never be able to protect them. The only way I can protect my children from anything like that is to arm them with the tools to be able to handle it. So make sure they're educated, make sure they're physically fit, just the simple things again, and that's it.
Well, it takes a really strong person to be able to just talk about what you just talked about. And it takes an even stronger person to talk about it in the tone that you've talked about it. I mean, I'm not surprised that things go on. And I'm not surprised, but I think it's certainly improving.
Yeah.
But you're right with what you said about that situation where I think there's bad people out there.
Yeah.
But I think it's about an understanding of that education.
Yeah.
Of that. Do you know what you just said there? You can spin it back, and I don't want to belittle anything by being bored.
Yeah.
By actually being a bit overweight.
Yep.
You can spin it back to those situations. And I saw when I played golf, I played county golf, I've made up for it because I've had a couple of tattoos. But if you had a tattoo and an ear piercing, you wasn't going to get selected for your county when I was playing golf. Just the way I spoke.
Yeah.
Some golf clubs turn their nose up.
Oh, I mean, we've known each other through golf as well, and that for me is the biggest magnifying glass to anything like that. And it's not just people of color, women as well. So it's a strange space, and this again is sport there's a beauty in sport which allows just this
to level things,
a complete leveler, but also it brings everybody into a place of respect. And I don't know what, I've had it several times where golf is something I took up a little bit later, because rugby was kind of the core thing, but I'll turn up at certain golf clubs and you're just being, now I don't even need to see it, I just know they're looking. And it's like, why is that person here? Can he actually play golf? And then, I'll go up on the first tee or whatever, and I actually remember I was on holiday with some friends, and this happened, and I was just saying this is going to happen, and they were like, okay. Get to the first tee, walk up, and again, everyone's eyes are just, is this person that you don't belong here? You can almost sense it, and I've hit the ball, and of course it's I don't know if it's practice or what. I can hit the ball a long way, and the ball has sailed a long way.
And then they're all shocked.
There was shock, and then actually I got a standing ovation.
Really?
Because I think there was this kind of perception or belief that you won't know what you're doing.
I mean, listen, I've seen it. I've seen it with classes at golf, cultural classes.
Yeah.
And so you move that onto the ethnic side of the game, then it's there. I mean, probably the best thing that's ever happened for golf was Tiger Woods 100%. Since the days of Nicklaus, and it's changed it. But it saddens me to hear that, I'm pretty sure I'm not stupid at this, it saddens me that, because I don't look at it like that. And I know that I've got lots of friends that don't look at it like that. It would shock some people still.
Yeah.
But as Spoonie said, and as you've said, I think that education is the way forward.
100%.
You know, and equally, I don't want things to go too far. I think Spoonie used a great analogy with me when he said, Blighty, look, you know, things needed to level up. It's like scales. You put the weight on. Things might go like that, and we've just got to find that coming back. And I think, hopefully, that's the road and journey we're on.
It's balance, right? We we have to 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and certainly for me, it's I love playing golf. I love being out in the open. Skiing's the same. You know, there's not a lot of faces that look like me on the slopes, and there's even less that look like me who.
When I go on the slope, I'll get whiter, mate. I'm telling you, because I go like a ghost because I'm shit scared of skiing. So
I mean, for me, it's exactly the same, and I again, just very privileged and very fortunate to be able to do that and spend time not just with my family but friends, being out in the mountains. So yeah.
Well, it leads me on to just another thing. I know you're doing a lot of travelling with work. Business is good.
Yeah, business is busy. I've joined.
What is your day job for the listeners out there?
Wow,
and the viewers.
So my day job is I'm a senior vice president for a technology company that works in compliance, risk, and audit. So that space, and I have a global team who are helping. Our CEO describes it as, think of it as farm to fork. So, aeroplanes to take off. There is a compliance element for an airplane to take off. The radiology departments, they'll store X-rays, that sort of thing. So the company I work for actually, have technology that helps, these organizations to not only as Ben, our CEO, calls it farm to fork, but they keep us safe, and we're the safe hands of the technology space. And that's what I do.
And you enjoy it?
Yeah, I've always, one of my core values is I'm fairly altruistic, so it's always been about, I like helping people. So my small way of helping is basically working with a global team. I've got leaders in North America, in Australia, and in Europe who work with our customers day in and day out to help them use the technology in the right way. And that for me is again just a huge privilege. I never thought in a million years this little kid from Yaoundé in Cameroon would be part of an organization that basically helps all of us in the world. Never once thought this little kid from Cameroon would not only play rugby but be able to transition from rugby into the world of business, and that for me is so I smile because it's a privilege, really.
I'm going to suggest another career to you. I mean, this will come out a few weeks later, but we just had an election. I think you'd be an amazing politician.
No, my wife would argue that I probably shouldn't. I struggle. I struggle with politics. I think maybe it's the politics in our day and age. I mean, goodness me, we're off the back of an election here. The Labour government has taken over, and part of me, I just think there is so much good that can be done, and I'm hopeful that all of not the promises, but the campaigning that took place pre the actual nomination, some of that comes to fruition in the years ahead, and it's about not necessarily me, but my kids and my kids' kids. And
I'd say the same. My children, and they're older than you, my children's children.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that will. But just on that little politics bit, sometimes I don't think it needs to be a politician. It just needs to be that someone that's got great core values, a great understanding, a person that everyone can look up to, and I am telling you, there are lots of white guys that look up to you, mate. And I mean lots and lots of white guys and girls out there, and children. Yeah. You know, one of my sons who's met you adores you. So you would be an amazing politician, but I totally get why the missus is saying no, not at the moment, not at the moment. Yeah. Talking about good causes, are there any charities that are close to your heart?
Blimey, loads. So one of my core values again is around just learning and development. So I've been working with a number of different charities. So the first one, and I've championed them for years and years. It's a charity called First Touch, and they're based in St George's Hospital in South London there. And for me, it's just an incredible organisation. So, would you believe, and this was when we first got in contact with them over 20 years ago, there weren't enough incubators in hospitals in the UK. So, if you had twins who were premature, one would be in one hospital and the other one would be, potentially 100
really?
miles. Yeah, absolutely. There weren't enough incubators, and just working with that charity, we've done a lot of work, and not only have we managed to secure and give them the ability to secure more incubators, but also, it's progressed onto things like training babies and privacy screens for the mums, and just little things like that, which I think are really important. So, so First Touch is like one of them, and the other one, Urban Synergy. So I again, golf is a great leveler. So Urban Synergy have been running a number of golf days, which I've been very fortunate to support them in helping to actually create and form, inviting a bunch of guests and raising a lot of money for the kids in these challenging communities who don't have the opportunity like I've had to not only do well in education, but there's a great saying, you can't be what you can't see, and actually having these kids on the golf course with us, just seeing a slightly different life away from whatever struggles they're seeing. Because I always think back and reflect back as me as the 10, 11-year-old, the kid who gets kicked off the train for being the wrong colour. But actually having these kids on that golf course, seeing how something that they probably would never have imagined in their life, but that little jewel for them could actually change a child's life, and just seeing something slightly different. So Urban Synergy is the other one for me. Those are the two charities that sort of caught to my heart.
Well, you're right about golf. It does a lot for charities. Yeah. We've been on a few charity days where we're both together there. Yeah. It raises a lot of money. Yeah. The business community raises a lot of money. The house building industry, the construction industry raise a lot of money for charity. Yeah. I really hope that Labour now with their mandate can actually start to grow the economic situation in UK, because if we do go deeper into recession, and we are in recession, the charities are going to feel the pinch, and we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, look, charities are always the ones who are going to suffer first. I think economics in general, and it's interesting, Labour, supposedly socialist organisation, trying to now operate in this sort of capitalist construct which has been left by the Conservatives. For me, I'm fascinated to see how that's going to work. I mean, we've had Labour governments in the past, and I sort of reflect back on some of that politics. I think Tony Blair's sort of mantra then was education, 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 and then they came in and pretty much unravelled all of education, which was interesting. And we could go on, but for me, it's I'm just hopeful that the most important thing I always feel we should be talking about is how we help people. But it seems that the rhetoric that the media would have you believe is how we need to be pushing people away, which I just find that quite tough.
Well, when we sat down, I said to you time would fly.
It does.
It has. When we sat down, I spoke about you. Yep. I feel as though I've bonded with my brother here. I didn't need to, but it's just natural. I feel closer to you than I did. You are a lovely man.
Okay.
You're an inspiration, not only for black kids, but an inspiration for people. You know, and I mean people, because you've had adversity, which you've talked about. You've dealt with it in such an inspirational way. I'm in awe of that, and you should be very proud of that alone. I've loved my time with you on Blighty Talks Bricks. When I get out of the divorce courts with golf, because we're either getting divorced or we're having mediation, because golf and I have fallen out big time.
Yeah.
If we can mediate, we'll get on a golf course and have a game. Yeah, it's been lovely to see you, Muna.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming on Blighty Talks Bricks. I knew this was going to be fun, and I am so honoured and pleased you said you'd come on. It's flown. I think there's a lot of food for thought for people out there from what you said. Look after yourself, look after the family.
Thank you.
We will get a game of golf soon. Been great having you on, mate.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Blighty. Privilege.
Viewers, listeners, another end to another podcast of Blighty Talks Bricks. As I said, I think Muna leaves a lot there. My closing bit is going to be Muna for Prime Minister. That's Sir Keir Starmer. If you don't sort it, fella, I've got someone in the wings to come and take over. I'm going to wish you all well. I'm going to wish you all to stay safe. Take care. Lots of love.